Hi, this is Naomi with Sword and Steel, and yes, it's been too long, but I am back, and I have been playing around with these new, among other paints, these new Speed Paints 2.0. There was some disgruntlement about the 1.0 ones due to bleeding. It would be completely fine if you had only put army paint or speed paint on and left it at that, which a lot of Dungeons and Dragons players did, so they probably found no issue. But if you were going to put paint over top of it, there was some bleeding issues in that the paint reactivated and blended in, which is okay unless it came right off the model or you didn't want your top paint to be tinted with your bottom paint. So they redid the line, and now after 2 hours there is no bleeding or negligible bleeding, such that if you put 2 layers over top you'd never notice, and generally speaking you want to put 2 layers over top anyway. They gave me the Speed Paint Mega Set 2.0. You're looking for the 2.0 on it to try out, and I've been completely satisfied with it. Are they better than contrast paints? A big question you might have. I would not say so, but I'm just as satisfied. If you want to check out the description because you're only interested in one or two, make certain to click on the timestamp in the description and go right to that one. I did it in alphabetical order for your ease, so I hope you like that. Before I show you each one, I should let you know that each of the minis were primed with Mecha Ivory Airbrush Primer from Vallejo, and I applied a single layer of the Army Painter Speed Paint, not pausing until it was entirely finished. Like the contrast paints in the new Vallejo Express paints, which I have also tried, you need to fully coat whichever surface you want painted with some speed, so the paint doesn't dry in patches and leave dark lines separating where you stopped and when you started. You have to paint it all in one go. That isn't to say I wouldn't do a second coat over the first one after the first one has dried to give some more definition, more shadow, but I didn't do that in this case, since the point of these minis is to look at viscosity, their ease of application, and hue more than anything else. This one actually is a great example of how everyone was painted, since the viscosity of this line is very consistent across the board. I had no surprises. Each one wanted to travel to the cracks and crevices. That means that you have to be careful how much you put on your brush. I could overdo it because my entire miniature was being painted the same color, but you want to be careful how much you put on your brush because it will want to flow. But I'm very pleased with this line of paint, I have to say. These would also easily go through a 0.5 or 0.35 nozzle on an airbrush. If you are like me and like using transparent paints through airbrushes, I think you'll be super happy with these. Age Tide. I think I would actually use this as a mix with some of the other ones more than I'd use this by itself. And I'll get into that when I'm showing you off the other ones, so you know what I mean. Why is the Army Painter not better but as good as the contrast paints? As you will see when I go through them, they are just as easy to use as the contrast paints, but I don't see anything that these guys bring to the game that the contrast paints didn't already provide, besides different colors. I really like this Algae Green. I have it on a rock that I'm going to be showing you. This Algae Green really works well. I really like this color. Ancient Honey. Yellow can be a very difficult color to handle unless of course you have white underneath it, or in this case ivory, so never bother to put yellow over anything except for white, and that goes of course with this one as well, but it's a really nice yellow. Ashen Stone is on my rock. The first color that I put on my rock was Ashen Stone. I really like the dark gray that is in the shadows to the very pale light. I think this works really well. It's one of my favorite. Probably going to be used often. And the contrast paint range doesn't actually have one that looks just like this. So I like that I have that now. Battleship Grey, I'm not so sure about this one, but it would look nice, I think, for hair. If you want a soft white, you could start off with this and then dry brush white on. Battleship Grey. If you want it to be more defined, I think you need to use a bit more of, I think a little bit of the medium in with it would do well. Beowulf Blue is a nice blue. Nothing wrong with that. Looks good. I like it. It's not overly saturated, so if you want something a little bit calmer, then that would be that. We've got Bony Matter, obviously for bones, and that looks great, I think. Definitely looks like bone to me. So I'm going to have to try that out more. Bright Red is definitely bright red. Do not be this color palette that they suggest is not accurate, I think, to what it actually comes out to be. This is much brighter. It has a slight orange tone to it that you might be able to tell because I have a Carmine Dragon here, and can you tell that it's slightly orange? Kind of like Blood Angel's Red in the contrast paint range. Slightly orange. I think it would be a good base for perhaps when you're doing fire, stuff like that, or a red dragon. Brownish Decay. Brownish Decay. I like the name. Brownish Decay. I think it looks great. I think it would look great for some skulls, so that works lovely. We have Burnt Moss. I personally have not ever really seen burnt moss, so I don't know if that's an accurate name on it or not, but I like the color. It's slightly green-gray, and I see it working nicely on rocks. Maybe rocks underwater. Next we have Caribbean Ocean, which I feel like it could have been a little bit brighter, but it is softer. I think it'll look really nice mixed in with Raging Sea, which is this one. Actually, I think they're so close together that you probably wouldn't notice much of a difference. I think I might use Raging Sea where I would use Caribbean Ocean, but have the contrast, not the contrast, the speed paint medium, sorry, in mixed with it because they're so similar. But this might work out to be a nice icy color. Caribbean Ocean. I could definitely see me using it somewhere, of course. Carmine Dragon, which is a very lovely red. As you can see, it covers nicely and gives a bit of the shadow there for you. And if you wanted more shadow, you just put it on more than I did. I was careful about not letting it pool too much, but it looks like you could pool this one more aggressively than I did. But I'm more for putting on a thin coat the first time around, make certain it doesn't pool, and then I can always go back and do it again. This one, on the other hand, the Charming Chartreuse, is much heavier. I did not actually put it on heavier. I'm pretty sure it just really likes to pick out the details. And then we have Desolate Brown, which didn't go on as nicely as some of the other ones did. So I think I might not have mixed it up properly. Thought I did pretty good with all of them, but maybe I needed to shake it a bit more. Still, it's a nice color. Woohoo. And if I used a bit of the speed paint medium, it'll give me even more control. But, you know, looks like a Desolate Brown. Not sure where I would use it. Probably for aging, which makes sense because it's called Desolate Brown. Dusk Red is a nice aged or dried blood look to it. A brownish red. I think it would also look great as parts of plants. So all of these go over the miniature really easily. Swipes, swipes, and you're done. I think about 7 drops of each one, about 7, is what it took to completely cover the miniature to this point. Familiar pink. As you see, it's more, it doesn't cover as much as the others. So if you wanted it brighter, all you'd have to do is wait for this first one to dry, and it dries in about half an hour or less. The big rock that I completely coated, I noticed how long it took to dry, and that took half an hour. And would it bleed through? Would you have trouble after if you only waited half an hour? I don't think so, because I did not wait the full 2 hours before I went on and put on extra coats. Fire Drake. I mean, I'm sure it looks great with one of your darker parts for fire, but I actually use this for a nice bright wood look. So that's what I enjoyed it for, and I think a nice dark leather, it would work well as well. A Forest Sprite. Woo. This one, as you can see, it gets into the crevices really nicely. I was really happy with how easy these were to use, how quickly they wanted to go into the crevices and not stay on the raised portions. It really made it easy to use. These are really nice. The Forest Sprite, as you can see, it's a beautiful green. You can use it wherever you like. This one is Ghoul Green. I don't know why it's Ghoul Green. I guess you could paint your ghouls this green. I was thinking more of a really creepy, palish, rotting kind of green. I think this might be nice for a glow effect too, if you were a soft glow effect, if you were careful. Maybe through the airbrush though. All of these could go through the airbrush just fine. Goddess Glow. This one is definitely a nice darker skin tone. We have several skin tones across the way. This is, I guess, the first one in the alphabet anyway. You could definitely use some aged hide to mix in to add a little bit more of a copper style to it. This is their black. It is this black on the first go, which I'm completely fine with. As you can see all of the highlighted areas. If you just wanted it to be blacker, then do a second coat after the first one has dried. So I'm quite content with this black. You get a grey for all of the raised areas, and actually the majority of the areas will come out to be grey, and then the deepest crevices are black. And if you want more of it to be black, you just more carefully put a second layer on in the areas that you want black. So that one's perfectly fine for me. It's a cool black, not a warm black. Gunner Camo, a very dark green. You could absolutely pale this guy up with some speed paint medium if you want it to be softer, duller, paler green. As you can see, it covers really well. Or you just have a nice dark camo. This one is Magic Blue. I think we can all recognize this beautiful pigment. So this one would be matching a Talisar Blue in the contrast paint range. And of course it's lovely. Woo. This one is Maize Yellow. And some yellows give the appearance that they're yellow, but they're actually a very pale, a very close to yellow green. This one is actually yellow, so that you could use it for sunsets and fire and stuff like that. It's yellow and it goes into a darker orange when it dries, so I like that one. But of course it does work well as a base for your greens. If you want, some of your greens might be a bit too pale over white or cream, and you want it to be more vibrant, then you could put Maize Yellow underneath, let it dry, and then it will come out to be a more vibrant green. Moody Mauve. I think it works really nicely. It was easy to use, as I guess all of them were, but I like it. I like that color. It's pretty. Moonlake Coral, which is very close to Moody Mauve. Here, I'll show you the difference. They are not the same. You could certainly use Moody Mauve to shade, to put into the shadows of Moonlake Coral if you wanted more shadows, since something more purple would be more accurate to a shadow. But this one does its own shadowing just fine. And then we have Murder Scene. Oh, and I think this one would be nice to darken up or contrast Familiar Pink as well. It matches nicely. Okay, Murder Scene, which is a really, really nice dark drying blood color. I like this one. So evil looking. If you want it to be even more evil looking, you wet blend it with the Carmine Dragon, the red that I have on my nails. That would be a very evil looking color if you wanted a nice demonic skin color. Yeah, that would be really nice. Okay. Noble Skin. Very gray color. I'm not exactly certain why it's called Noble Skin. I looked at a whole bunch of different skin colors so I could figure out what is what, and this seems a lot more gray than any natural skin color I have seen in all of the pictures that I looked through. But, alright. If you added a little bit of aged hide, I think that would really get you to the darker skin tones, potentially. I'd have to play it out a bit. Maybe it looks more like skin color when you put it on a face rather than a rat. Nuclear Sunrise. I think this one has flecks through it. I think that might be my fault. Maybe I didn't shake it up, or it comes like this. I'm okay with what it looks like. I may have not cleaned up my water enough. I don't know why it has these flecks on it, but I'm happy with the color. I think it looks good. I'm not exactly certain whether it will work out for a sunrise. I'm going to try it out though. On a canvas. It's nuclear sunrise though, so dangerous. Occultist Cloak. Do like the color of this. It's a bluish color. Now this one had a weird effect, which I am going to bring in close so you can see. It may have been because I had primed this the same day for the bottom half of the models. I'd primed them on the same day. Maybe I should have waited until the primer completely cured. Not entirely certain why this happened, but it cracked. It didn't adhere to the paint properly just for this one. So 47 were fine, and there was this error, and I figure it might actually be user error. I don't think the paint is the problem because all of the other ones were just fine. So, but I like the color a lot. Ochre Clay. This one. A dirty yellow. I like it a lot. I'm not exactly certain where I would use it, but I think it's a color that I do not currently have, so I like that. Orc Skin. Very lovely green. Super nice. If you wanted it to have less of the black, just add a bit of the speed paint medium, and you'd get more green and less of the black, but I really like it. Super nice. Does look like Orc Skin if you like vibrant orcs. Me, for Orc Skin, I might dull it down a bit. Possibly put the Orc Skin with the burnt moss, and then contrast medium just to make it less bright, but for Orc Skin in particular, I wouldn't do anything for this color if I wanted that to be super bright, because it's lovely. Peachy Skin, so we've got a paler skin tone. Peachy Flesh, I think it looks great. Has a bit of a red tone to it, which I always like for realistic skin. And if you want it super pale, you just put more speed paint medium in with it. I think it's great. Peachy Flesh. And again, I have to say, if you want, if you want like the knees, the nose, ears, stuff like that, I think this Age Tide in with it would make a nice effect. All right, Periwinkle Purple. I like this. Slightly purple tone to this Periwinkle Purple. I think it's great. I think it would work great for the shadows of paler blues, because the shadow should be a little bit more purple, realistically. So I like it. We got Poppy Red, which is a super vibrant red. Very nice. If you want to give some more shadow to your Carmine Dragon, just slightly, you could use Poppy Red, because the Carmine Dragon has less shadow. This one, they're very close, but there is a difference. There's a tiny bit more of the towards the pink on this one. I think you might be able to see. So there is a marked difference in my eyes. Don't know how well the camera picks it up, but there is a marked difference. Very similar, but not quite. All right, we got Purple Swarm, which is a very nice purple. Nothing to say. It's a lovely purple. If you wanted to go a bit smoother, since it's so dark, I would use some more of the speed paint medium and then do multiple layers. Raging Sea, I already showed just this one to you, but I'm going to show it to you again. I really like how this turned out. One of my favorites, just looks lovely. Shadow's lovely. Great. Beautiful. So happy with that one. Okay, Royal Robes. This one's pretty. I've always loved Armies Painter's color tone, this particular color tone, which is a pale bluish purple. I really love it, so I'm happy to see this in this speed paint style. So pretty. So pretty. Ruddy Fur. Looks great. I like it. Looks like Ruddy Fur. It actually suits the poor little guy that has been colored all sorts of different colors. It's great. I think it's also a nice mid-tone skin tone. It's similar to Gorgrunta Fur, actually. I think it'll work really nicely with a bunch of different skin tones to get the color that you want. Satchel Brown, which I just realized I forgot to paint. I should probably do that. Ooh, that's dark. Probably should have done this one color that I somehow forgot before I started working on the trees on my terrain that I was doing, because this looks like a perfect color for trees. Well, I can use it as the shadow. For all of these, I painted them with the Squid Mark 1. Shamrock Green, a vibrant, really pretty green. You can see from the shadows under his feet that the shadow is quite dark. But again, I like to do a fairly thin, without smearing, color over top, and then I will go back and do another coat if I want to get even more dark areas. So this was done very thinly, and you can see that it has the ability to make a very dark shadow if you put it on more heavily. But these are ones that really like to go to the crevices, so you're not going to have much left on the top, and you're going to have probably too much in the crevices if you go too heavy with these. Alright, this one is Slaughter Red. I missed a teeny spell right there. That's fine. This is Slaughter Red. I like it. Very nice dark red. Very nice shadow for Carmine Dragon if you want to still stay in the reds. So that one's nice. And the shadow for it, I think, I'd go with Murder Scene as the shadow for the Slaughter Red if you wanted to go with different shadows. Alright, and then we have Tidal Wave, which is a nice soft blue. As you can see at his feet, it could get very dark if you let it. I like it. It's lovely. It does feel like rain and cold with some white, maybe dry brushed on it. Tyrian Navy. Definitely gives water vibes. Deep Ocean. Mulling Brook. Also would work nicely as the shadow of a lot of different things. Blue shadows are very nice to use, particularly for purples or reds or stuff like that. Warrior Skin really likes to go to the crevices, which is great for a skin tone because you don't want to have a random patch of dark on your skin. That would look strange, but as you can see from his face and the flat surfaces, it does really well to go into the crevices. I think this is a very nice skin tone. And then I was supposed to get a 47th one. That wasn't the metallics. I'm going to get to the metallics shortly. I was supposed to get a 47th one, which was called Gilly Dew. It was supposed to come in the Mega Paint set, but instead I got accidentally a second one of the Maize Yellow. I mean, I'm perfectly fine with the Maize Yellow. Army Painter gave it to me, so I'm not particularly bothered, but I think that was just a mistake of mine in particular. I can't imagine all of them accidentally have two Maize Yellows, but I didn't get the Gilly Dew, and that would be why. That's why you don't see it here, if you were looking for it. Now, for the last ones, the Talos Bronze, the Broadsword Silver, and the Hoplite Gold. I do not care much. I like all of these ones, but I don't care much for these ones. I just don't think worked out as a nice metallic paint. I think perhaps the Talos Bronze would have done better if you put it over a tan color, a slight orange color. That would be perhaps more realistic, but over the cream, even though they suggest it, over gray or cream, it doesn't work out that well for me. This one would be the best one to go over the pale whites that I put it over, but I still do not see it as being a very good choice as a metallic. So I don't know what I'm going to do with these because I'm not going to be using them. And then Hoplite Gold, I just don't think it turned out the way that it was intended. Here is Army Painter's Greedy Gold spray paint. I think that this works much better as a gold than this guy does. So they have the capacity. Army Painter has the capacity to make a beautiful gold, and the Greedy Gold, the air paint, has a really nice coverage as well. So if you wanted a quick gold, I would go with not Hoplite Gold and just go with the Greedy Gold either. Here's the spray and the air or the non-air if you want to dry brush, the air if you want to just layer, the non-air if you want to dry brush. I think works perfectly fine. That is what I would go with. And that goes for the same for the silver. Here is it was primed black. This is a Necron. It was primed black and then it was dry brushed. I didn't know which one it is offhand, but I'll put on the screen which one it is. I think that's a much better metallic, so they have the capacity to already do a really nice metallic. And then for the bronze, here's one that it was also done by Army Painter. I'll put it up on the screen which one it was, but with a black underneath. I think this just works as a much better metal than any of the speed paint ones, and it's not going to take you any amount of time to do it. So yes, I did put his head on like that. He gives you attitude. Anyway, I think this is just a better way to go for metallics. If you had any questions at all, you should make certain to comment below so I can get to them, maybe do them in a future video. I will probably be doing future videos like I did for the contrast paints on singular paints. So if you had favorites that you were curious about, you should make certain to comment below and let me know. Yeah, that's about it. Make certain to like and subscribe to the channel if you like this. This is not the only line of paints that I'll be going through. I have, oh my goodness, so many paints that I'm painting. The very next line is probably going to be the Vallejo Express color line. And no, these are not the same as the Army Painter line. And no, they are not the same as the contrast paints. Same concept, I believe, but different outcome. So check that out when I put that out as well. And you have to subscribe to do that. Well, you don't have to subscribe, but it's easier on you and better for me if you subscribe to do that. Okay, I will catch you in the next video. Bye! Thank you very much to the patrons. Sorry, I have not been putting out as many videos this past couple of months, but that is about to change. I'm not getting sick anymore. I am in much better shape. I've got my vitamins, so we're gung-ho for more videos. Thank you so much for your continued support. Just to give you another look at it, this was just done with the speed paint, so I could definitely improve upon it, but I wanted to see what I could do with the speed paints alone. And in behind is all the speed paints that I used. So 7 different speed paints. It works. I mean, it works. What do you think?